Today on Locked On Rockies, a win is a win, even though it's spring training. And while we've been highlighting the good things about spring training, yesterday's game against Kansas City showed that the Rockies' bad habits might still be a problem.
You are Locked On Rockies, your daily Colorado Rockies podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Rock on Rockies fans, welcome into the Locked On Rockies podcast for today, the 27th day of February in the year 2025. I'm your host of the Locked On Rockies podcast, Paul Holden, bringing you your daily Colorado Rockies talk right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where you can find your team every day. And if your team is the Colorado Rockies, guess what? You're in the right spot, because that's what we do around here each and every day, free and streaming on your favorite streaming services and on the Locked On Rockies YouTube channel, where you can be part of the show. You can fire off your Rockies hot takes. You can let me know what's on your mind when it comes to the Colorado Rockies right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. We are your team every day. And if your team is the Colorado Rockies, of course, you're in the right spot. Today on the show, we're going to talk about the warning signs from yesterday's game. Of course, we're talking about positive signs. We've been talking a lot of good momentum, but yesterday's game with the Royals was kind of a prime example of when the Rockies have gotten themselves in trouble. Bounced back, got the win, got some runs across, but there are a couple of areas that I want to highlight here that do show a problem with the Colorado Rockies. At least the same stuff that we can kind of get to or consider when it comes to the regular season, because this is a team that is going to be one that these things matter, I guess, is basically what I'm trying to say here. And let's dive into this. Let's get ready to dive into this and a whole lot more on today's episode of Locked On Rockies. So again, hey, a win, right? Boom, 7 runs, another big crooked number. But let's take a look at some of the things here that's the big concerns and why this game yesterday. Maybe it's a sign of it's spring training, so we're looking for some, just, it's not going to be completely that, but it's a sign of Rockies getting behind early. It's a sign of the Rockies strikeout problems poking their heads, really starting to poke their heads up, and it's a problem of pitchers not getting outs in crucial situations and in big moments there, and giving away some free passes. Especially in the case of Molina and Justin Lawrence, 2 guys that the Rockies are going to need this year. Again, no one got too blown up and suffered a huge letdown, obviously, but I think yesterday's game reminds us that there's still work to be done with this team. And let's start here. Yesterday, the Rockies struck out as a team 7, 9, 11, 13 times. Another day and we've seen that story before. And so you're like, okay, maybe it's just one bad game, right? No, the Rockies are second place in spring training right now in strikeouts, trailing the Dodgers, and I know it's younger guys. It's this, it's that. The Rockies have struck out 71 times since the spring training started. We are just about a week in to games being played. This right here is when you're talking about things that are glaring right away. Bam, 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 bam. Warning sign, bad habit. It's right there. They're scoring runs. Great. But it's coming up against a wide variety of pitchers of God knows what, or where their level is going to be. But it doesn't matter that level of pitcher, because they're still getting to they're still striking out the Rockies, and they're still striking out the Rockies pretty darn consistently. This is a team, again, like I said, second in spring training now, 9 more than the Giants in second place, trailing the Dodgers by 10 in terms of strikeouts, which, it's great, which is fun. If on the positive side, the Rockies up there in terms of home runs, they are tied here with the Guardians and the Cubs at 8 home runs hit this season, or this spring training. They are a team that is flashing some, a higher batting average, 7th in spring training right now. So there are encouraging things, but the strikeout number is something that is the huge thing that I'm looking at here. Because not only did the Rockies strike out 13 times in that game yesterday, they walked twice. That's the problem there. And again, you look at the actually, I'm sorry, that was the Royals that walk. The Rockies only had one walk in yesterday's game, and it was by Caleb Hobson. So none of the guys that are there, and some of the people that are kind of on some skids here to start the spring training. Nolan Jones, for example, continues to kind of go through it a little bit as he's going through the grind. My point is, that's the type of stuff it kind of is the bring it back down to earth reminder right there. Not only that, but the Rockies started this game trailing by 2 runs in the first inning, are able to bounce back, get the 3 spot there in the top of the second. Big day from Nick Martini there with a couple of bombs, which is always great. But it's still, though, if the Rockies are going to be able to do this type of stuff where they can pull it around, they can get themselves back in there. But the recipe for disaster was forming right there with Kansas City. Down by a couple of runs early, striking out a lot in a game, not getting walks, not getting guys on base that way, having to rely, on getting the hits and being productive, which the Rockies were productive yesterday in terms of some offense, like multiple players getting a couple of base knocks, like I mentioned, Nick Martini having the couple of bombs for the Rockies to help out. All in all, it's just when you look at those type of trends, and when you look at second place in strikeouts in spring training in nearly a week in, that's when you start to get concerned. That's when you start to get concerned about, okay, I like what's working right now, but we know that the big offensive, it's kind of interesting where it's like, we can't care too much about the offensive results of the players of spring training, right? But I can still focus and worry about the strikeouts. And why I say that is, if the Rockies are striking out 10 times a game in spring training, I don't necessarily, I'm not sitting here being abundantly confident that the Rockies are going to go into the start of the season and not strike out 10 plus times in a game. And we've seen how often and how bad that can be for the Rockies. This team cannot go through another season of striking out on average 10 plus times a game. They cannot be the worst team in baseball by strikeouts and only trailing, I believe, by strikeout percentage rate to the Mariners last year. This has to be an area of improvement. I don't really care if it's spring training or if it's in September. I don't want to see double-digit strikeout games from the Rockies. I don't care who's in the lineup. I don't care if they're high A guys all the way up to the majors. I really don't care, because this is the thing to be concerned about. This when you are looking for things to bring you back down to earth, and when you're looking for things of why the Rockies are being perceived to be the way they are, this strikeout problem is at the top of the list of issues. This is going to be something that will derail a ton of progress, and this is going to be something that the young Rockies have to figure out and start navigating. They cannot continue to be a team that carries as many strikeouts, gets as many strikes out as often and as frequently as they do. So this is something where it's like, I'm not just concerned at Nolan Jones's slow start to the season and a few Ks to start. I'm concerned about it being an approach problem, a preparation problem, a philosophy problem. It's still early, right? If we see the strikeout numbers start to trend downwards throughout spring training, that's the encouraging sign. That's the thing to be excited about. That's where it's okay. Maybe we can just lean back and say, all right, first week of spring training, it was getting bad. But it was one of the biggest problems for the team last year. And it's already on the path for being a huge issue this year. And especially because I really don't like seeing box scores of 13 runs, of 13 strikeouts, and then your team only picks up 1 walk. I like being aggressive. I like that these young guys are trying to make sure that they're taking advantage of their opportunities. But the Rockies have to walk more. They have to be a team that gets on base and then allows themselves to be successful in driving them in by getting the hits. Right now, the Rockies are a team that, let's see, they are third to last in all of baseball when it comes to walks. Let's see here. They have oh no, I'm sorry. Is this walks allowed or is this walks taken? I'm trying to see which one this is. Okay, so the good news is, I was reading this wrong here for a second. I thought it was on the pitcher thing, but no. So the good sign is, and yesterday's not an example there, Rockies are actually tied for third best most walks in baseball so far this spring at 34. So that's a great sign when you're seeing that plate discipline there. I think that is easily one of the biggest. It's a basic one. It's a very baseline thing, but plate discipline, plate vision, all that stuff needs to be an improved upon area for the Colorado Rockies here. And yesterday's game wasn't a good example of that. Others we've seen good examples of the Rockies getting the job done this spring. But yesterday's game kind of gave you all of the flashbacks of 2024 Rockies baseball. And I'll keep explaining why here coming up after the break. This is the Locked On Rockies podcast. We're free and streaming on your favorite streaming services, bringing you your daily Colorado Rockies talk. Shout out to our guy Sully over on the Locked On MLB podcast. He will make a perfect second listen for your day. If you need more baseball coverage, he's talking about all things Major League Baseball across the entire league, so you can get the inside scoop on everything there. Talking about warning signs, talking about bad habits here for the Rockies going into the games there. And we were talking before about, why is it important? Why is it important that this team works on plate discipline, works on plate vision? Anything that makes the Rockies offense their biggest strength is going to be a win for the Rockies. I think the defense, if you can mix the good defense to good/great defense the Rockies have on paper with, and I'm not even saying league leading, I'm just, let's say, middle of the road offense, or with a couple of outliers that help beef it up a little bit. You're not going to get there if you're striking out double-digit times a game. And in those double-digit strikeout games, you're not with only one walk. The good news is the Rockies are hitting the long ball and able to get the job done here so far, especially in that game. But I'm not counting on that all the time. This coming up in the regular season, the talent level is different. So now is the time for the Rockies players to be forming the right habits in order to be looking at pitches, drawing out counts, fighting off pitches, working on that plate discipline, and getting themselves in a situation in which they feel confident and comfortable at the dish. This is another thing too that I hope in the background of things, and I hope in the behind the scenes things, and with the coaching, that this is something that they're really emphasizing, that they're really focusing on. How do we improve on the strikeouts? How do we improve on getting on base, scoring runs, and being an effective offense from top down, being professional hitters? That you hear that all the time when you're talking to your high school or your little league teams. Be a professional hitter, have the discipline, be confident in yourself. I just really hope that the Rockies are helping put their team in the position to be successful. We talked a little bit about this with Blake Street Banter. I've talked about this before. I can't give you concrete examples, so I'm asking the question here. How prepared do Rockies players feel when they step up to the plate? And how prepared do they feel through their personal work and through what they've done to train and practice and get themselves ready, mixed with what resources, what data, what film, what perspectives can the coaching staff and Bud Black and the others of the front office give to their players to make sure that they're putting themselves in the best position to succeed? When the thing that seems that was so frustrating last year was time and time again the Rockies offense and Rockies batters going up there and just looking completely lost. 3 swings, strike 3, you're out, or way behind, way late, just not, it just looks like they hadn't even seen anything that these pitchers had to offer before. So that's why I have the question of what is this team doing to help them lock in on offense and help them be more prepared, help them be a team that is going to go up every single time and know, okay, this is what I know on this guy. This is what I got on this guy. This is what I've seen. This is what I did last at bat that I need to improve on. This is what the coaches are telling me. This is what we've seen success. Take all that information because, unfortunately, the tough part about baseball is that brain, is that mental side too, of course, right? It's one of the toughest mental games there is out there. You got to take all of that stuff that you worked on, all of that preparation from your team, and you got to mash it together and hit a ball that someone's throwing at you 100 miles an hour with movement. So it's easier said than done. But I'm just bringing this part up because yesterday we got to see the example of the Rockies fighting through that adversity and getting a win still, right? A spring training win, obviously. But that's those type of games, those are the ones that get out of hand. Those are the ones where you trail early. Those are the ones where you're not going to win back-to-back games because you get off on the wrong foot. The warning signs in that Royals game yesterday are the things that will be the big issues for the Colorado Rockies. Trailing early, striking out, bullpen pieces, giving up, not being able to get a clean inning, allowing extra bases, allowing runs scored later in the game. Because again, this is the Rockies were ahead in this game, and then again the Royals start creeping in. It's a 1-run game going into the 9th. After the Royals get at plate 2 in the bottom of the 8th, in the bullpen here, we're looking at walks from Molina, Lawrence, Bird, and Molina had 2 innings worth of work, so that kind of numbs the pain a little bit. But they got dinged up here a little bit, not anything too concerning, but again, this is still shows that the work needs to be put in because if the Rockies strike out a lot and then the bullpen comes in and we got each, Molina, Lawrence giving up 2 hits each, an earned run each, both walking someone. Molina picking up 3 strikeouts, which is good. Lawrence picking up 1. But still, Bird, no damage done, but a walk. Luis Peralta, 2 hits, 2 earned runs. So there's the cracks right there, right? Luckily, the Rockies offense was the star of the show, and this is spring training, so all in all, it doesn't mean too much. But the point is, how many times did we point to those issues last year? How many times did we look at games and say, man, it was a close one, but they struck out 13 times. So, you're not putting yourself in a position to win. Those aren't productive outs there when you're striking out at that rate and that many times. How many times last year did we say the bullpen, there we go, they had a lead. It was a back and forth affair. The Rockies gave themselves a little wiggle room. And it just didn't happen. So again, as much as we've been excited about stuff, as much as there's been good signs about the Rockies, yesterday's game was the reminder still of how far you still have to go, how much improvement that you still want to see for this team, and how much you still want to use this spring to work on and fix those bad habits, or at least get yourself in a position where you're not that it's not so extreme. I guess that's my big point, I guess, with all of this and why I'm spending so much time focusing on these key areas is you can't allow that to be. If this is the norm in the regular season, it's just going to kind of follow the same type of pattern we've seen the last 2 years. The Rockies won't go on big winning streaks. The Rockies will lose multiple games in a row, and it's going to be like a win, and then they can't follow it up. That consistency that we keep preaching is going to be impacted if these trends continue. These are the things that we know are big problems for the Rockies. And unfortunately, we're already seeing, kind of the red light start flashing. I don't like the fact that the Rockies have the second highest amount of strikeouts in spring training right now. I know it's the sample size is still small, but still. And hey, you can sit there and say, well, the Dodgers, are you worried? What about the Dodgers? Are you worried that they've struck out more than the Rockies in spring training? No, I'm not, because it's the Dodgers, and they're in a completely different they're at a completely different level and have a completely different approach to this spring than the Rockies do. I'm worried because these are all guys that are, a ton of guys trying to make their case and stamp their ticket to the major leagues. Whether it be starting the season off or getting a call up in the middle of the year, these guys are hungry to succeed. But I just don't want to see the same treadmill of double-digit strikeout games, walks a problem for the pitching staff, and the team falling behind early. All of this came from one game, especially. I know people are sitting there. Weren't you just talking the whole episode yesterday about, or about how the good signs, what's going on? That's a good thing, right? I and that's why I wanted to do today's episode like this. It is the reality check of, hey, 5-1 in spring training. Hey, it's spring. It's the eternal time of hope for baseball fans. This is when everyone's still in the mix. Still, everyone's healthy and good to go, and all that stuff. It's all exciting, sure, but we can't ignore these things as Rockies fans. These are the things you want to see improve in spring training. So now our goal not only is just to see the Rockies continue to get guys playing time and go through their competitions, but this time next week, I want to see the Rockies drop in the strikeout standings. I want to see them make an adjustment and strike out less. I want to see this team, draw some walks, get some better approaches, build out that offense a little bit more. Then we can start really getting excited about the possibilities of how this might transfer over into the regular season. Because now, first week of spring training, all the good stuff is going to be an afterthought. If the Rockies open up the season the way they did last year, and as they've had, striking out, not being a productive team. So we can't ignore these warning signs that we're seeing. But it is early. I mean, hopefully this will be a certain part, a sign that this is a team that can make adjustments. This is a team that can rebound, that can work on what they're doing, mixed in with some breakout performances from some young guys. Hopefully this spring as they're looking to impress. So I don't want to put a downer on everything for that we've seen. And of course, like I said, the Rockies won in that game yesterday. But the things that we know are problems for the Colorado Rockies, they definitely showed reared their ugly head yesterday in that game. And it's something for us to keep in mind going forward. All right, let's take a break. And then we got lots of YouTube comments to dive into today. So we're going to take a look at the Locked On Rockies community comment section here, see what the hot takes are from the Rockies fans. Do that coming up next. Before we do that, though, got to tell you about the folks that help make this show possible, and that includes Wonderful Pistachios. Looking for a snack that's both delicious and nutritious? Crack into a good source of protein with Wonderful Pistachios. Wonderful Pistachios is one of the highest protein nuts. Each 1 ounce serving has 6 grams of protein, giving you over 10% of your daily value. Plus, they're packed with fiber and better for you unsaturated fats to help keep you feeling fuller longer. You can get the no-shell variety that's perfect for grab-and-go snacks on busy days. Maybe you don't want to make a big mess at your desk. Those help there with the no-shells variety of Wonderful Pistachios. You can have that satisfying crack of opening each shell, though, on the classic version. And you can, it's that little ASMR that you love to hear every time, let you know that you're getting a protein-packed snack. Get snacking and get cracking with the snack that packs a protein punch. Visit wonderfulpistachios.com. That's wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more. This is the Locked On Rockies podcast for free and streaming on your favorite streaming services and on the Locked On Rockies YouTube channel. Thanking you for making us your first listen of the day. Our guy Sully over on Locked On MLB, perfect for the second listen of the day. All right, let's take a look here. I can't remember on how far down we go. It's on how many how deep the comments go, because we got a lot of comments this week. So let's see here. All right, let's go a little bit. I think I already read some of these, so I think I found one of them. All right. TK says, first off, Jan has to keep producing to make the team, but if he does and makes the roster, that could be a good sign that Buddy is actually embracing not only the youngsters, but more flair, which I can't agree with you more, Paul. This team has needed it bad for years. Yeah. There was a great article that followed up his the viral moment there for him yesterday. And kind of talking about, it's really good. Jack Magruder here over on MLB.com. Jan's flamboyant strikeout celebration. It's here to stay. And what's really great is you hear him talk. He's like, I'm not insulting anybody. I'm not trying to do this. I'm not trying to, insult anybody. I just love the game of baseball. I'm energetic. I love doing my job. My job is to get people out. And when I'm good at doing my job, I can't keep my energy and I can't keep my emotions. And it all just, it just comes out. And I love that. And he makes a great point too in this article as well. He says, I want the guys that hit home runs off me to celebrate as well. I want them to show that they're enjoying the game and having fun. Even mentioning how baseball in the United States is complicated when it comes to emotions and things like that. It was a short piece, but it gives the insight of just because people are excited, just because people are energetic on the field, it's not a direct attack on the character of the other players. It's just life, energy, passion for the game. And just like I love, give me big bat flips, give me drama. Give me Jan jumping up and doing the pump and the strike. Could you imagine if the Rockies were in a close game against the Dodgers? I mean, playoff hopes were on the line or something like that. And he strikes out the side and he finishes it by jumping, lands on the ground, hits the thing. I mean, your heart would jump out of your chest if you were a Rockies fan. You would love that. But that why I wanted to bring up that article is because I like the perspective here. And let me read the quote here. That about the opposing team here. Obviously, here in the United States, baseball is a little complicated, Jan said. Sometimes opponents will get offended, obviously, with this kind of celebration. But when they hit a home run against me, they are going to celebrate. They are going to have their fun. That's something I don't get offended by because they are enjoying the game just like I will. More than anything, I'm just going to continue to enjoy my celebration, continue having fun when I'm out there. and that's what I love hearing that. That's the way to have it. I'm going to do my thing. I want y'all to do yours. And so I think that's a really good insight there. And of course, that's on MLB.com/Rockies if you want to read more. Let's see. What's this? Obama Gaming says, been to 3 spring training games so far this year. It's looking fun. There's a long way to go in a lot of respects, but we are moving in the right direction. I will maintain my cope. We're going 162-0 this year. Hey, haven't lost yet. So can't that goal still on the table. This is a really good one from Cassidy here. Hey, Paul, really enjoyed the segment with the guys from Blake Street Banter. I was surprised to hear them say they think Dollander is going to get 20 starts this year. That's a lofty prediction since we've only seen him throw a couple of innings so far. I also wanted to bring up something different, which hasn't been dominating much of the headlines. I made Sully my second listen of the day because I was happy to see the title of the Locked On MLB video about the recent breakup of ESPN and MLB. Nice to see Sully over there pointing out the serious lack of coverage that the games are getting with what feels like 100 different streaming options. It makes things frustrating when I can't watch my team either because of a blackout or because I don't have the right right streaming subscription. This is especially true for spring training. I know that these aren't primetime games, but it was Dollander's first time in purple this year. You mentioned Chris Bryant's 460-foot slug, and I heard the audio from the commentators, but I didn't get to see it. The young guys, Karros, Amador, even Nolan Jones, who we didn't see all of last season of injury, how do they look? What's their swing like? How comfortable do they seem? All of this is seen in these games, but we can't watch them. They've got to figure out their broadcast because just catching highlights isn't enough for us everydayers. They've got the cameras there anyway. Just stream it. Lots of us either have the MLB.TV or would get it if it was a certain way to watch all of the spring training action. Anyway, thanks for the daily content to get us through the offseason. You're welcome, Cassidy. And thank you so much for that great comment. Yeah, this one's a frustrating one for a lot of fans, I think, too. I mean, and it's a great point. that you make about how to analyze the swings, how to analyze how they're actually looking on the field. When you're listening, you don't get to see that stuff. And when you're like, we got everydayers like Cassidy there. When you're that locked in at this stage, and like we were talking about the bad habits, the bad forms, if you can't see the, oh man, the balance is off, the swing's looking a little weird, the timing's off. Not necessarily, you can't see that stuff by just listening to it. You got to hope that Jack and Jerry can paint the picture for you there, but that's about it. That's all you really can do. So I see the frustrations. I wish I had some answers for you on this streaming thing, but I do think a big change is going to come within the world of baseball with MLB and ESPN splitting up. Listening to some interesting stuff on the Dan Le Batard show yesterday, where it's talking about how this was a relationship that was on the rocks for a while. ESPN's promotion falling flat. ESPN entering what is ESPN in 2025? What does it look like? Where's the value on there versus going full on Apple, going full on these other streaming services that are hungry for live sports and hopefully hungry for some innovation to keep making the game of baseball an entertaining product to watch and an easy product to watch, because it is frustrating for a lot of fans to, oh, hey, I pay for MLB TV, but then there's an Apple game. Oh, and then so because there's going, those ESPN exclusive games, they're going to go somewhere. Those games are going to end up somewhere. Where do they end up? And how are you going to be able to watch it? I don't know. But I would say don't be surprised if it takes another streaming service there. So, all right. I know we had a lot more comments, but we'll save some more for tomorrow's show and wrap it up on it for a fun Friday. So if you got more comments, questions, or anything like that, let's do a fun Friday here. So get in the Locked On Rockies YouTube comment section. Let me know what's on your mind, just like these folks did there. But that's going to do it for today's episode. Thank you so much for making Locked On Rockies your first listen of the day. We're free and streaming on your favorite streaming services and on the Locked On Rockies YouTube channel, where you can be part of the show. You can fire off your Rockies hot takes, and you can let me know what's on your mind when it comes to the Colorado Rockies. For your second listen of the day, go check out our pal Sully on Locked On MLB. And if you need more Colorado sports coverage, Locked On Broncos, Locked On Avalanche, Locked On Nuggets, and Locked On Buffs, all free and streaming on your favorite streaming services. Until next time, I'm Paul Holden saying so long from the Locked On Rockies podcast.